After editing over 200 videos for Think Media, I'm excited to share my step-by-step process on how to edit a YouTube video inside DaVinci Resolve. So even if you've never edited a video before, by the end of this tutorial, you'll have all the skills you need to create engaging and professional YouTube content. Let's dive in.
You gotta just press record.
What's up, Nate here with Think Media. If you haven't already, go ahead and download DaVinci Resolve. It's in my opinion one of the best editing programs out there, and it's also free. So go ahead and click the link in the description to download. Once that's installed, we're going to move our attention over to our footage. So here I have a very simple shot of me making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Nice.
If you want, you can actually download all the footage I'll be working with so you can follow along step by step. Now, after you download your footage from your SD card over to your computer, chances are it's going to look something like this, just a bunch of different random footage, which brings us to our first step, and that is to organize our footage. Now, this is an important step that you don't want to overlook. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of headaches later when you can't find your missing footage. So don't overlook this. So the first thing we want to do is make a folder of our project name. So I'm going to right click, new folder, and let's just type in PB&J. I'll click enter. That creates a folder. I'm going to drag everything into this. This will be basically our project folder. Once we're in here, we want to organize our footage into different kinds, such as A-roll and B-roll.
What?
Now, if this is the first time you're hearing these terms, let me explain that for you. A-roll is your talking head footage. So example right here, I'm talking to camera. This is primarily going to be the footage I'm going to be editing with that also has my audio. B-roll is supplemental visuals that help you explain your story. For example, I could throw a shot of a pizza right here if I was talking about that. That basically is going to help convey your message more clearly. So we want to kind of divide these two. So I'm going to go ahead and click a new folder, and let's click A-roll. And this shot right here, we can see that once I open it up, this is my main talking head video. So this is our A-roll. So I'm going to click that one, drag it into A-roll, make another folder called B-roll, and all this other stuff is my B-roll. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that into there. Congratulations, you've now organized your footage. Now we can move on to step 2, which is importing into DaVinci Resolve. Click on this icon to open up Resolve. It should bring you to this page where all your different projects live. Now, of course, we don't have any projects yet, so we're going to click on New Project and give it a name. So I'm just going to put, again, PB&J tutorial. We're going to then click on Create, and it should bring us to this rather terrifying looking screen. Now, if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, just go ahead to the bottom and make sure you select the Media tab. Now, just a side note, these different pages allow you to organize your project depending on your needs. For this tutorial, we're primarily going to stick around in the edit page, but first, make sure you're on the media page, and this is where we're going to import our footage. The first thing we want to do is drag this folder into our media pool. This is where we can access all of our clips as we edit. And once we do that, as you can see, it imports our clips. However, it's all disorganized. There's actually a quick fix for this. So what I'm going to do is click Command Z just to undo my last move. And instead of dragging it here, I'm going to bring it right underneath where it says master. And if I do that, as you can see, it keeps all of our folder structure the same. Just a little pro tip for you. So now we've imported our footage, we want to go down to the edit tab. This is basically where we're going to live for most of our video editing purposes. Up on the top left, you can see all of our footage and it's nicely organized. We have our main folder, our A-roll, and our B-roll. In order to view and play back our clip, let's go ahead and double click on our A-roll. As you can see, it brings it up into this viewer tab, and we can play this back by pressing this play button here or pressing the space bar. Now, as you can see, I'm still setting up. So what we can actually do is scrub through this footage if we don't want to watch the whole thing in real time, just by clicking on this little handle here, and we can just kind of move it and see where we get to the actual action of our clip. In order to edit this clip, we need to drag it into our timeline. And to do that, you can basically click anywhere here on this viewer, drag it down right here, and boom, we have our A-roll in our timeline. I'm going to mess with the zooming of the timeline just so I can see the entire clip on our screen. Now, that is one way we can import our A-roll into a timeline. Another way, and it might be a little bit more effective, is if you use the player. Basically, if I only want a certain section of my video, I can scrub through right here and click I on my keyboard to set an in point, go through towards the end, basically to the end of my video, click O as an out point, And if I drag and drop this, basically it is already kind of trimming the beginning and the end as I bring it into the timeline. This is super handy if you have lots of B-roll and you only want a certain section. You don't have to drag the entire thing into your timeline. Now, similarly, we can actually scrub through our timeline by clicking on this little orange tab, and we can play it back, scrub through, find the points we want to work with. And that brings us to step 2, which is to cut down our A-roll footage. So playing back this footage, as we can see, I make a mistake at the beginning, but then I get into the main video right here and perform a good take. So what we want to do is we truly want the video to begin right here. And to do that, we can go over to the left side of this clip, click on it, and drag it all the way towards that beginning. That will basically remove all the other footage just to this point. But as you see, if we were to play this video back, we have a bunch of blank space. So if you click on that empty space, click delete, this brings it to the very beginning, and now our video begins right here. Continue to play the video. I have this empty gap that I want to remove the middle out of. So how do you do that? The first thing we want to click on is our blade tool. So move your attention right up here, click on this little razor, and then we can click and make a cut right here. As you see, there's a little perforated edge. So I want to cut it right here where I take too long with the bread tie, and I want it to end right there. So now I selected this little clip right in the middle that I want to remove. Just go ahead and click delete, and again, click on the middle, delete. And now we've removed that inner bit and made it a lot more snappy. And a handy tip is to look at our waveform when we're editing our talking head video. So as you can see, this little audio here, it gets a little quiet, it gets very low when I'm not talking, and it gets much louder when I do talk. So I can kind of use that as a guide of when I'm talking and what parts I want to remove. And if you want to get more precise on where you're cutting, just go up here to this zoom in tool and you can get really fine tuned and start making your tweaks right here. And you can also zoom out to see your entire video across your timeline. So now I'm just gonna go through this entire video, cutting the things that I don't want in the video, and that way we'll have a nice snappy edit. You'll notice as I'm editing this A-roll, I'm not actually using that blade tool. Instead, I'm using a keyboard shortcut such as Command B to make those cuts as I go along the video. These little tricks help you speed up your workflow, and it's definitely looking into if you plan to get into video editing.
A few moments later.
So now the video is much shorter and snappier. However, we have these harsh jump cuts in the middle of our footage, and it looks rather unpolished. Boring. So to bring this video to life, we want to add some B-roll to give more perspective to our video. So in order to start placing our B-roll, I'm going to find a section where I think we could use some visuals. And right here, I listed that we'll need bread, peanut butter, and jelly. So I've actually shot all of that in our B-roll folder. So go up to the top left and click on B-roll, and we have a variety of different shots we can choose from. I'm going to click on this first clip here, and if I scroll to the very end, I have this nice panning shot that shows all the ingredients laid out. So what I'm going to do is find a good endpoint when I start on the camera movement, right about here. Click I on the keyboard and wait for it to end. Right here, I'll click O. And now I can basically do the same thing, import this into our timeline. Now, as you see, when I brought in the video like I did before, it also brings in audio track, and we don't necessarily want to have audio with our B-roll. So instead, what I'm going to do is click on this video only icon. I'm going to click hold and drag this right above where we want our cut to be. And if you bring it to a track above your A-roll timeline, you can move this around without affecting your A-roll clip. And now, once I play it back, you'll need for this dish. Well, you're gonna need some bread, some peanut butter, and your favorite jelly. Already just a much more engaging video right off the gate. So continue to play the video, we're going to run across our jump cut. Basically, this is where I've cut out all the fluff of me trying to fiddle around with the bread tie. So we actually want to cut away and show a new perspective and not have that obvious cut there. If you download this footage and follow along, you actually will see that I have a different camera angle. So if I go to ZVE10, A-roll, we'll see we have a top-down perspective of this entire video. So I'm gonna go through and find the exact moment when I basically have untied the bread, and we're gonna place that over our jump cut. Again, I'm gonna click I and O and drag just the video right above this cut. Now when I play it back, so let's first untie our bread bag. Make sure you leave the end piece in there. No one wants that. Now it's just a lot smoother, even though I've actually completely omitted me messing around with the bread tie. When you look through this footage, you may notice that some footage is 60 frames per second. This is shot at a higher frame rate so I could later slow it down in editing. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm gonna grab this clip right here, and let's say I want this jelly spread to be slow motion. So I'm going to select my in and out points. I'm going to drag this onto the timeline as B-roll. I'm then going to right click and select change clip speed. And then I can go over to the speed tab and slow it down all the way down to 40%. And once I click that, you'll see that the clip is now very slow motion, very cinematic looking. I can then change how long I want the clip to last for. But that will basically take your 60 frames per second and make it 24, which plays back as slow motion. So as I place B-roll on this video, I'm just gonna listen through this entire video, and when I have a good visual in mind or something that I shot, I'm gonna place it where it seems to fit. So as an example, when I first played this clip, in this video, we're gonna show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I think it would be good to show a visual of the final product. So I'm going to reach up to this top clip, and I have this nice panning shot. So I'm going to click I right about here, and that should be enough. I'm gonna click O, again, drag the video clip only, and then I'm just going to time it when it seems right when I say the word peanut butter and jelly sandwich. In this video, we're gonna show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's start. I'm gonna cut right there, just kind of trim the ends. And now with that in place, let's take a look at our edit. In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's start off with the ingredients. Already just much more engaging to watch. I'm going to do this exact same process throughout the entire video, choosing angles that is best going to show the action. So I've just gone through and placed B-roll throughout the entire video. So let's go ahead and let's watch it back. In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's start off with the ingredients you'll need for this dish. Well, you're gonna need some bread, some peanut butter, and your favorite jelly. Okay, so the added B-roll definitely does elevate the overall product, and I think it does two things for us. Number one, it just shows the overall clarity of the process of making this sandwich. And two, I was able to actually trim more fluff from this. By adding the B-roll, I could get away with cutting some things that I wouldn't have if I were just using A-roll. So overall, I think we're in a much better place, but we can go further with today's sponsor.
If you're a content creator or a YouTuber and you're looking for music for your video projects, then you definitely need to check out Epidemic Sound. When you subscribe to Epidemic Sound, you're able to use their entire music library and all of their sound effects inside of your YouTube videos and your social media content and still monetize your videos. With the different albums and moods that you can go through, you can actually find the perfect music for your project. And then once you find a song that you like, one of my favorite features is clicking on similar songs. This then gives you a ton of different songs that are very similar to the mood and vibe that you liked before. If you want to get started today with a special discount, then make sure you check the link down in the description, and let's get back into the video.
So after looking through Epidemic Sound, I landed on this track right here. And the first thing we're going to do is stick with the organization and create a new folder called Music. Let's drag that in. And I'm also going to drag this underneath that master folder. And boom, we have our music folder with our music track right here. So what I'm going to do is drag this into our timeline by just clicking, and we're going to drag it underneath our audio section. So it adds a new audio track. And if I were to play this back, in this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter. And you can see we got our music in there, but it's also way too loud. So we want to lower down this audio. So to change the volume of any audio, you can actually reach up towards this little bar and you can lower this down. I like to set my music somewhere around -30 for tutorial-based content. You want the music to be present, but you don't want it to be overpowering what you're saying. If you want a little bit more control, just select on this audio track and go up here to the inspector, make sure this is selected, click on audio, and here we can adjust the volume. So we have a little bit more control. We can also just double click on this and type in exactly if we want -30. So I like the current level of music as it's playing throughout the tutorial, but I actually want a little bit louder towards the beginning so we can hear the music. So to do this, we're going to just zoom in to this audio. And if you ever want to change the size of the different tracks you're working with, you can go over to these adjustments right here. I'm just going to click and lower here so I can really see that audio file. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some keyframes. I know, scary word, but trust me, it's actually very easy. I'm just going to click on option. Let's say I want to have the music pretty loud here, but I want it to fade out right after we introduce our ingredients. So I'm going to put my first keyframe here, and let's say I want the second one here. And basically I can then lift this section of the music, let's say -24. And from this first keyframe we put to the second keyframe is going to gradually go quieter to the volume we set at. So now let's take a listen.
In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's start off with the ingredients you'll need for this dish. Well, you're going to need some bread, some peanut butter, and your favorite jelly. So let's first untie our...
So that sounds pretty good. If I want to make further adjustments, you can click on this keyframe and move it over. Just make sure that it is set to that volume you want. So -30 will be good. Boom. Again, if you want to adjust the audio track, you can just kind of move that back down. And now we have a nice music that sets the tone for this tutorial. But let's say you want the music to slowly fade into your video. Well, we can actually do this fairly simply by clicking on this little white tab on the left corner of this track, and we can fade it in. So let's say we have it at a 2-second duration. So once I play this,
in this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly.
It gradually rises to the appropriate volume. And you can do the exact same thing for the ending as well. Now, just a quick note on music. I feel like for educational based videos, you do really want to have something very simplistic in the background. If you have music that starts competing with your vocals, it can be very distracting, and I think it removes away from the educational quality of the video. So having the music very subtle, but also simplistic, kind of airy, and slightly positive for a fun video like this, I think this track works well. Now that we got our A-roll cut, we added some B-roll, and now we put some music, I think this video is already a much better place. It is totally watchable at this point. However, I think you do want to spice it up a little bit more, so let's talk about adding in some text. I think it'll be nice to show some text for what the ingredients are. So I'm going to go over and make sure my effects tab is open, go down to titles, and let's just choose basic text. I'm going to drag and drop that above my B-roll clip. And as you can see, we have some basic titles. Go ahead and click on that, and in this box, we can change it to anything we like. So let's just type in bread, right? From here, we have a myriad of different controls. We can change the position at which this is at, the different scales. You can even change the rotation if you want to. And quick note, if you ever do want to undo something, you can either click Command Z, or you can click on this little undo for this particular function. So let's say I wanted to go back in the center, I just click that, boom. Very useful tool. So I want to change the position of this text. So what I'm gonna do is go down to the X and Y coordinates, and I'm just going to click and drag this down right here towards the bottom. I think this would be a good place to put our text. Now let's think about changing our font. So I'm gonna go through and pick a good font. And here we go, I'm just gonna go with the classic Think Media font. And let's just go ahead and bring up that scale just a bit. We can also choose to apply a drop shadow, which is enabled right here, and just go ahead and choose the offset, and that will kind of darken what's behind that text, which I think is really nice. So now if I play this video clip back,
You're going to need some bread.
Our text now appears. However, it was quite abrupt, so you may want to add some transitions. So let's go over here to our toolbox, and right under video transitions, we have a bunch, but my favorite is to find the push one. So I'm just click that magnifying glass, find the push one. We're gonna drag it right over to the left side here. And as you can see, there is a little handle now, and I can change the duration of this. So for now, let's just set it around there. 14 frames should be good. If I were to play it back on its default settings, as you can see, it just kind of slides in, which is definitely nice. However, we can tweak the settings we want. So I want this text to rise from the bottom up. So let's click on it, go over to push, click push up, and we can change the few parameters such as the ease. I like to put ease in and out. What this does is instead of it being very linear, robotic, it kind of does a more natural flowing motion. So let's go ahead and watch that.
You're gonna need some bread.
Very nice. I think it definitely adds a little bit more pizzazz to this text. I'm going to trim this right over here, and then I'm going to copy this animation by holding down the Option key, click and drag that over. And now we also have this transition, but when we play this back, you'll see a problem.
Some bread. Some peanut.
It just kind of goes way off screen. So instead, I want to change the preset to push down. And now here is our effect.
You're gonna need some bread. Some peanut.
And it's a little bit too quick. So let's actually change this push animation and let's make that shorter so it has more time to be on screen.
You're gonna need some bread.
Now it's a little bit jittery. So what you can do is just add some motion blur and that will help smooth things out a
You're
bit.
gonna need some bread.
I think this works pretty nicely. Now I want this to apply to my other ingredients as well, and we've done quite a bit of work just to reach this point. So a good way just to copy our work is to hold down Option, click on this and just drag it over, let go, and then let go of Option. And now we have another text frame to work with. All I have to do at this point is just type in my other ingredient. Gonna make sure this fits over that clip, and I'm going to do the same thing for the jelly. And with that, we made a very basic text and animations to go with it. A cool thing about these transitions is it also works for video clips. So I'm just going to copy the animation we made already, hold down Option, and I'm going to click and release it right here. And boom, now we have a smooth animation from our A-roll to our B-roll.
Oh my God! Wow!
You'll notice that this footage is all shot on a tripod, so there is no camera movement. And now if you want to add a little bit more spice into your videos, you can actually add some of this camera movement in post. Let me show you how to do that. So in my main angle, it is shot on a tripod, no camera movement whatsoever. If I decide I want to add some digital camera movement, what I'm first going to do is I'm just going to make a cut right here where I'm on screen. This will come in handy a little bit later. I'm then going to click on this clip, make sure you're under Inspector, and click on Dynamic Zoom. Make sure it's turned on and just click on it to see this drop down menu. We're going to keep it on linear. And what we need to do now is we need to go down to this little icon right here and click on Dynamic Zoom. We'll have two frames, a green and a red frame. Our green frame is our starting movement. So let's say I want this to kind of start closer and then digitally scale out. So I'm going to set that frame right around here. And let's watch this back now.
In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
So now with a few quick steps, we just have this nice subtle camera movement pulling out that adds just a little bit more interest to a static shot. We can actually further control what this dynamic zoom is doing. So we can choose to go from linear or an ease in. And ease basically is going to help create more natural movement. So it's going to start off slower, then ramp up. For this, I like to keep it linear. And now with that animation combined with our B-roll, this is our result.
In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's start off with the ingredients you'll need for this dish.
Already, this is taking nice shape and it's much more entertaining to watch. Now I want to take you to my favorite part of editing, and I think it is often overlooked by YouTubers, but it is something you should pay attention to and I think can really improve the overall look of your video, and that is color correction. To do this, I'm just going to click on my A-roll clip and head over to the color tab. And yes, this kind of looks scary at first, but we're only going to do a few basic adjustments and it's going to take us really far. The first step of the color correction process that I like to do is get a proper white balance. So sometimes your footage can look a little bit too warm or a little bit too cool. Well, we can actually fix that in one simple step. We're going to reach down for this eyedropper tool and we're going to select on something that is white and bright. So I'm just going to select on this plate because it happens to be there. Now, you may not have noticed a difference, but if we look down here on the temperature and the tint settings, we can see that it decided to make it a little bit cooler and add a little bit more green. So it was a little bit too warm and a little bit too magenta, but it fixed for that. The second thing I like to do is make sure my exposure is right. So if I go down here, we have these different color wheels. One is called lift, gamma, gain, and offset. That is really confusing, but what I like to think of this is shadows, midtones, highlights, and just general exposure. So if I mess with the offset, it kind of increases everything. Can also darken it. Let's say you make a mistake, you can just, again, click this tool right here, get back to default. The third thing I like to do is add in a little bit of contrast. So let's go ahead and just move this to the right. Not too much because we're pretty close already. The fourth step is to add some saturation. So if I go down here to the saturation slider, as I increase this, it's going to make it more colorful. If you start going too far, it starts looking really bad. So just keep it very subtle, maybe 55. Now it may look like we haven't done much of a difference, but if I toggle this on and off, you can see it is quite substantial. And I do think the higher contrast, more saturated look is definitely more appealing to look at. Now, so far we've only color graded this one clip. If I go further in the video, you can see that it's not the color graded version. So if I want to apply this color grade to all the clips in my video, what I can do is click Command C on the clip we color graded, click Command A to select all of it, and then click Command V. And that will apply the color grade to all the clips in our video. Now, quick pro tip here is if you plan on doing your color correction, I recommend doing it as the first step of your video, because then later when you make your cuts, you don't have to go in and apply it to every single clip. Just makes it a little bit faster. All right, so with the color grade done, it's already looking so much better, but now it's time to improve the sound of our video. Now, I think a lot of people overlook the audio part of a YouTube video, but I think it is the most important. It's really important that you hear what's being said as clearly as possible. Now for here, it helps that I have a nice microphone attached to me, so that way we have decent audio, and I always recommend having good audio when you're shooting the video. But there are a few things we can do to improve the audio in post-production. And for that, we need to head over to the Fairlight tab. Yeah, another scary screen, but don't worry, we'll guide through you step by step. We won't do too much in this. The first thing we want to look at is this little audio thing right here. This basically will change the audio track layer. So it doesn't matter how many clips you have on track audio 1, this will raise all of them. So when I play back this clip, as you can see, it gets pretty loud right here, but I can just lower this to have something that's a little bit more manageable. And you want your audio to be hitting around -3, -6 dB around here. For this, I think this is probably pretty good. And as you can see on audio track 2 is my music, and it's way down here where we want it. All right, so now we set our audio levels, which is definitely really good, but I actually want to improve the audio quality of my lapel microphone. The first thing I want to do is disable my music so I don't hear that as I'm working on this audio. So you can either click on this music track and select mute, or you can select on just your audio and select solo. Sometimes that's a little bit easier to do. So if now I soloed this audio clip, I just hear me. So now I'm going to click on this EQ tab. I'm just gonna give it a double click. And this brings up a little graph like this. This is a little bit complicated, but if you roughly follow this shape, you will get a little bit better audio. So let's go ahead and click on band 1 and band 6. Going to move the 6. So think of this as your low ends and your high ends. What we want to do is kind of cut out some of the lower frequencies that are main audio my voice is not picking up. This kind of cuts down on the room tone in our audio. I'm also going to this band 5 little one, and I'm just going to raise it up. Put all the peanut butter on there. And this is going to improve my high end, which is going to give it a little bit more clarity. Now you don't want to go too high with this because it'll start kind of bleeding your ears, but just enough to kind of give it more clarity. Now with lav mics in particular, sometimes it can sound a little bit muffled, and if we want to kind of improve that, we can go down here to this 3 and we're going to find the frequencies we want to remove. So I'm just going to raise this up, increase the factor so we get a very narrow angle. You can easily spread across. And now I like to kind of wipe the excess off there. I'm going to grab, so you can hear this really booming sound. Our jelly. It doesn't sound good, but we found a good frequency we can eliminate. So if I just lower this down to around -6 and make it a little bit wider, we've kind of cut down that frequency. And now I like to kind of wipe the excess off there. Sounds a little better. I'm going to do the same thing for audio 4. I'm going to grab our jelly. So we got some. So it's a really echoey, tinny sound. I found that point. I'm just going to lower it on toward grape jelly, and we're just going to something like here.
put amount that we desire.
So now let's take a listen to what it sounded like before.
In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
And now I'll turn it back on.
In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I think that sounds much better. It definitely makes the voice sound more full and it removes some of that muffly tones. Once you're happy with your EQ, we can now exit out of that and make sure to unsolo your audio so that way it brings your music back. All right, we've already gotten so far. We edited our A-roll, we added some B-roll, we added some text, music, some animations, and even improved the color grading and the audio quality. This is the part where I like to take a breather. We've already got a lot of work into it. Sometimes you can be blind to some of your editing mistakes. So take a few minutes, just relax, zone out, go for a walk, grab a cup of coffee, and then sit back and watch your video again with fresh eyes. One thing I like to do is get my friend's perspective on it. Now that I've basically worked on the video, I feel comfortable enough to show it to someone who can watch it and they can give me their genuine feedback. Now, oddly enough, sometimes just by having your friend watch the video, they may not say anything to you, but you'll start to see all the flaws and you know, oh, I actually want to fix this. So it's a great way to apply those changes and improve your overall video. All right, so now you edited your video, it's time to export it. The first thing we want to do in the edit page is select our in and out points on our timeline. This tells Resolve where we want the video to begin and where we want it to end. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the very end of our project, zoom way in, and I'm going to click O. And as you can see, there's a little handle right above here, a little gray bar. Make sure this is set to the end and not out here because then you'll have a black screen. So again, make sure that is nicely aligned with our last frame, and that should include the first frame as well, but you can always just make sure and click I just to double check. With our in and out points selected, we want to go over to the deliver page. So up here in the top left, we can give our video a file name. So I'm just going to say, again, PB&J tutorial. Then we want to choose a location. Go ahead and click browse and click a folder where you want this video to be exported. I recommend going to that same root folder we made called PB&J. And then I like to make a new folder called exports. Go ahead and create and let's hit save. Now we want to make sure we have some settings checked. Everything should be kind of like mine, but just double check, make sure it's single clip, export video. I like to use QuickTime H.264, and I'm actually going to change the resolution to 3840 by 2160. This is a 4K export, so make sure it's nice and high quality. And just double check your settings match mine. I'm going to go down to add to render queue. Go ahead and click add higher resolution renders. And now we just hit render and wait for the video to export. So now that it's completed, I'm going to exit out of Resolve, and now I'm going to open up our final export video. Go ahead and watch it and review it just to make sure there's no export errors or glitches. All right, so let's go ahead and watch our final video.
In this video, we're going to show you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So let's start off with the ingredients you'll need for this dish. Well, you're going to need some bread, some peanut butter, and your favorite jelly. So let's first untie our bread bag. Make sure you leave the end piece in there. No one wants that. Then we're going to grab a clean knife and grab some peanut butter. We're going to go with the creamy version this time around. And we're just going to grab a healthy dose of it like that. And we're just going to spread it evenly across all over the sides. We're going to need a little bit more than that. Just put all the peanut butter on there. It's helpful if you have room temperature peanut butter so it can easily spread across. And now I like to kind of wipe the excess off there. And we're going to grab our jelly. So we got some Concord grape jelly, and we're just going to put amount that we desire. I guess that's maybe a little bit too much, but we'll rock with that. Spread across evenly. And now once we have both sides evenly applied, we're going to press the piece of bread together. And there you have the sandwich. Now, if you like to get fancy, you can cut this in half. And there you have your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now for the last and remaining step is to try it. So let's get a taste. Tastes like childhood. Classic nostalgia. Very nice. And there you have it, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Thanks for watching.
All right, there it is. It's a very basic tutorial, but I hope this gets you up and running and creating for your own YouTube videos. And if you are brand new to video editing, chances are you're going to be running into some beginner mistakes. Nolan and I share how to avoid and fix them in this video right here. So go ahead and click that, and I'll see you in a future video. Peace.